Do you know the exact method how you can be sure that you have the right number of stitches for your new crochet project? We are going to walk through that now, and we are talking about the situation where you have decided what stitch or stitch pattern you are going to use, say for a scarf or a blanket or a hat or whatever, but you don't have an exact pattern. And the same method of course also works for clothing. And last winter I published this here cardigan pattern where we work in such a way that you can make it using any stitch or any yarn and in any size, simply by measuring to an existing clothing of the person that it's for. So it's similar to using a gauge swatch for a pattern, but we are going further than that. And we are going to look at two different examples in detail, and then I'm going to give some tips for working with a large stitch pattern. So the first thing is that you need to have a swatch of whatever you are going to make. In making a swatch, you of course always use the same yarn, the same hook and the same stitch you are going to use for the actual project. When you are working on a gauge swatch for a pattern, it normally always tells you it in 10 centimeters or 4 inches. And for that it's important that your swatch is a little bit bigger because the stitches at the edge are not the same size. But the way we are calculating it here, it doesn't matter what width it is, but normally less than 10 centimeters is too small. So it's worth making it big enough. This here stitch is the same as in that cardigan, extended single crochet. And I'm first showing how I calculated the stitches for that cardigan. So this bit of the video of explaining how you calculate is from that video directly. And after that, I'm going to show how you calculate the size of a baby blanket using this here swatch. This is chunky and it's a mini bead stitch. So I hope that these two different examples will show the fact that this works every time. Here's how you calculate your number of stitches using your gauge swatch that you just made. I'll first explain what we are going to do and then we do it. It's very simple really. You need 3 figures. First, the width of the item you are going to make, and then you multiply that with how many stitches you are using from your swatch. In other words, leaving the side stitches out of it. Then you measure how wide that same amount of stitches is in your swatch, and then you take the multiplication result and you divide that by that figure, the width. Okay, this may sound complicated, but it is not. So let's do it. Measure the width of the item you are using as a model at the chest, making sure that it is set out right, not stretched. Because we are making the body in one piece, then double that. I'm working in centimeters, but what units you use doesn't matter here as long as you aren't mixing centimeters and inches. Mine is 51, so that double is 102. But then we need to take away the width of the button band, which is 3 centimeters or a little bit over 1 inch. So that gives me 99. And I'm adding that in here. Next, take your swatch, and the other 2 figures that we need come from this here. First of all, pin it to some soft surface. Mine is just on the bed. And go towards the top of it, so not where you started it. And mark a place with the pin where a stitch starts, and then do the other towards the other end. It doesn't matter exactly how many there are in between, but don't go too close to the edges. And now count how many stitches you have in here. And I have 26, and that is the figure that goes here in this here calculation. After that, take your measure and measure the distance between your 2 pins. Mine is 17.5 centimeters, and that 17.5 goes in here. Then you do the calculation with the figures you have. My result is in between 2 numbers, and I chose to take an even number, so just putting it up a tiny bit. This means that I will start my work now with 148 stitches. Then the second example, we will see how many stitches we need for a baby blanket with this stitch. I'm planning it in the Finnish standard size, but that can be altered to any size. I know the sizes are different in different countries. This is what, for example, the blanket is in the maternity package that all mothers are given in Finland. And now we put the right figures in here and calculate it. We said that the width of the blanket was 80, so that goes here. Then how many stitches between those pins? These stitches are very big, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That was the number of stitches in the swatch. And then I measure how much those 8 stitches are. It's actually exactly 15. So the 15 goes here. And then we do the calculation. 80 times 8 is 640, and 640 divided by 15 makes 42.7. So that would make 43. So for the blanket, I would chain 43 using this here chunky yarn. And then the tip about these kind of stitch patterns that have a repeat of quite a few stitches, especially this one, because you would of course want to have the full repeat in whatever you are doing, not to stop like this here. What I do and what I find easiest is that instead of writing the stitch count in here, in this calculation, I write the number of repeats. So if I'm using this here bit between these 2 pins, I simply count how many of these designs there is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And instead of writing the number of stitches, I write the number of repeats. And then after I have counted that, then I multiply it by the number of stitches there, so which in this case is 4. I hope that doesn't sound complicated. And even more so when you have such a large repeat like this here, it has 10 stitches. This way of calculating stitches is actually something I learned at school when I was about 11 or 12 years old. It's something that stuck in my mind and I learned it by heart. It was in our craft class book. Have you used this way of calculation before? And if not, do you think it's going to help you? Would be good to know. Please tell me in the comments. Have a great week. Till next time, and again a few seconds from the city where I live.